President Trump today pausing his wide-ranging tariffs set to go on Canada and Mexico. The 25% duties are now on hold until April the 2nd, but notably the administration's tariffs on China are staying in place. To discuss these implications, we're joined by Javier Palomarez, founder and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Business Council. Javier Palomarez, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
It's great to have you back with us. Javier, President Trump postponing 25% tariffs on Mexico for 4 weeks, this following a call with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. What does this mean right now for businesses in the state of U.S.-Mexico trade relations?
You know, I think it's important always to recognize that Mexico is our #1 trade partner. As such, we need to treat the relationship accordingly. I think the president's doing the right thing in pumping the brakes. I think he has sent a very clear message that, you know, there's a new sheriff in town, and rightly so. We've seen already where the tariffs have worked in some regard. You'll recall that President Sheinbaum immediately sent 10,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. That's an example of how these tariffs can work. But I think longer view, longer term, it's really looking at, you know, what is fair for the United States versus Mexico. We recognize the important trade partner they are, never mind the national security implications. But beyond that, it's really how do we find a place where America gets what it needs, and it is a fairer deal than the deal we have now.
To your point, Mexico reporting significant crackdowns on cartels. Is this a sign that the threat of tariffs are working, and what has been the reaction from the Hispanic community close to the border?
You know, I think Hispanic or not, I'm talking to business owners from all over the country, and certainly those along the border states. It is unequivocally in support of what the president is doing relative to cracking down on the cartels. You know, at the United States Hispanic Business Council, we are unequivocally 1,000% behind this president when it comes to the immediate identification and deportation of those who are criminals or we know are here to do us harm. So from that respect, I think the entire American community, all Americans are supportive of this notion that we've got to stop fentanyl, we've got to stop the cartels, and we needed a president that was going to stand up and play by a different set of rules, frankly, and push a little bit harder. So on that point, I think unequivocally, I think the American people are behind the president on that one.
What do you think prompted the president to pause tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, and what does it say that they're still leaving those tariffs in place on China?
You know, I'm glad to hear that that relief has not been afforded to the Chinese government. I think it's right to take a second look at our #1 and #2 trade partners, Mexico and Canada. I think it is right to recognize that these are beyond trade and beyond the economic and commercial interests of our nation. Both these countries have been friends of ours for years and years. We share much more than a border. We share our people, we share cultures, we share national security interests. China is a totally different character. China has not been out to do us any good for quite some time, and I think a recognition of that by this president illustrates that he understands that, and he's willing to fight to get I think a better and more kind of equal playing field between us and China. China continues to infringe on our, you know, you name it, on our markets, you know, on our you know, innovation, and it just runs the gamut. So I'm glad to see that he is taking, I think, a bit stronger stance against China because it's necessary.
Now, China has just imposed 15% tariffs on American agriculture products. This happened last time Trump was in office, when the trade war started to escalate, and then the Trump administration at that point in his first term gave some relief to our farmers. You've been here meeting with folks on the Hill. What are you hearing right now in terms of relief for farmers? Will it actually get to that point where you see the Trump administration having to pass some sort of package?
I have, as I mentioned earlier, just today and yesterday, I've had meetings with 12 members, both in Senate and in the House, both sides, Republican and Democrat. Unequivocally, everybody is behind our farmers and ranchers. As you know, my association represents the interests of the agricultural sector. And so I'm delighted to say and hear both on the right and the left, Republican, Democrat, everybody is staunchly behind our farmers and an understanding of the situation we're putting them in. You know, you look at 30 states, 39 states in this nation, count Mexico as a number one or number two trade partner. But China is also an important trade partner for them. All the excess sorghum and grain and corn and so forth is going to China. And conversely, 90% of the rare earth minerals that we import come from China. So like it or not, we are mingled and intermingled with the Chinese interests. We have to figure out a way to get this, I think, a little bit more on an equal playing field. Having this president, I think, pull all the levers that are necessary to get that done is something that every member that I've talked to is supportive of, Republican or Democrat.
Javier Palomarez, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, my friend.